Welcome, everyone, back to the Economic Prepper Show. I'm your host, as always, Jeff, and I'm here with Dylan and Patrick. Dylan, how are things out in Colorado today?
Freezing cold, but it was a bluebird day, so I can't complain too much.
Patrick, let's compare and contrast Oregon to Colorado. How are we doing today in Oregon?
It's warm here. There's sunshine, and my muscles are aching from my workout this morning, which I saw a beautiful sunrise. So over here in Oregon, it looks nice.
Yeah, it looks nice until the fog rolls in, which seems to happen every other day. But it's getting better. It's we're only we're less than 6 weeks until spring, according to a certain rodent that was in Pennsylvania. But we'll see how that goes. But
is that berry season?
Pardon?
Is that berry season? Like blueberries and blackberries and raspberries?
No, that's usually later in the spring. But berries are all different times of the year. Depends on which kind of berry.
Man, now I wish we had Farmer John on our show again.
Yeah, I know strawberries are early or to summer, but like cranberries are late because New Jersey is actually one of the top states for cranberries. Not many people know that, but now you do. But speaking of the Northeast and states like Ohio, we got a ton to talk about today. We were going to have a guest. I just want to give him a shout out. Chris from Financial Preppers. He's feeling a little under the weather. He'll join us on another episode later down the road. But be sure to check out
seriously,
Preppers.
When we heard that Chris was sick, I was thinking, have you seen this guy? Like, I don't think anything can get this guy sick. He's like indestructible. So I think he just is ditching us. Or, I don't know. We'll see if he shows up again. No, I'm just kidding, Chris. Love you, man. Hope you feel better.
Yeah, feel better. And I know that both him and Stacy were concerned, but I think that it's just a passing thing. So shout out to Chris. Check out Financial Preppers on YouTube. We'll even put a link down in the description of the show later on. One of these days, I'll figure out how to get BitChute uploaded correctly. I've got Rumble down, got YouTube down, but we'll figure out BitChute. But let's jump right into the news. There's so much news to talk about today. Speaking of the Northeast, which we hinted at earlier, let's go to the first big story, which is this particular, I'll call it an explosion. It was a train crash in Northeast Ohio. It was one of many different, I'll say, traffic or transport accidents that's happened in the past week. This derailment in Ohio that happened in East Palestine, Ohio, which is pretty interesting too. We'll talk about.
Yeah, it's so interesting. No one saw this coming.
No. How could you have possibly seen this coming? So if you I'm putting up on the screen here. This is a movie called White Noise on Netflix. If you haven't seen it,
I thought someone was making a meme out of this. I literally, when Caitlin sent it to me, I thought someone made a meme. I was like, "What do you mean? This isn't something to make fun of." And this is absurd.
Yeah,
like what the heck just happened here? Literally, happened.
They made the pseudo documentary before the thing happened.
Shoot, I am so scared of Zombieland right now. I mean, I have never been more scared of Zombieland in my life.
Normally, we save the red pills and the woo-woo for later in the show, but this one has to be called out early. This movie was made last year. It's set in the same exact town in Ohio, East Palestine, and the same event happens. A train crash with a toxic cloud that gets released into the local area. It's the exact same scenario. So if you want to talk about predictive programming, here's Exhibit A. But let's talk about the traffic incident. Dylan, what's your take on all these different train crashes happening all over the world today?
I mean, I don't know if it's I forget what it's called, but there's a psychological phenomena where something pops up in the media and then people will start manifesting. It's typically like a disease or like something like that pops up and people start manifesting that. And so maybe the news cycles like that. Maybe there's always train derailments happening, but just because there was a prominent one, they keep showing them. I don't know the data on how many train derailments typically happen in any given year. I know that there are some. I was at a bar over the summer and a guy came in and he was talking and we got to talking about how him and his son were just on this like nice family trip across the country and their train derailed, like a terrible, like just a one moment they're on the tracks and the next moment the train's flipped over and they're crawling out.
I hope they did this. They probably were safe.
Yeah, I don't know what they did, but they survived, and it's just a crazy story. So I know trains do derail, but what frequency is the question to ask, and so I don't know if all these derailments that we're seeing highlighted in the media is because there was the prominent one, and so they're gaining attention and fueling that speculation like we're doing now, or if it is a heightened time of train derailment activity. So I don't know.
So
Bro,
I
there
was
was
able to pull.
a cloud of smoke over the city, and fish are dying inside the water. This is not normal. If this
I know that's
happened,
not.
it would be all over everywhere so fast. As it was so quickly disseminated. There is no way this is like the same amount of activity and derailments. Like, there is absolutely no way. And the white noise thing, I'm not even a bucket 2 or 3 guy. I don't even like those buckets. This is bucket 1. Like, this really happened, and the movie really came out before it happened.
So I was able to find this as we were speaking here. There's a train collision or derailment every 1.5 hours in the United States, which sounds really frequent to me. But that's, I think, for the significance. There was a lot of talk about the lack of safety personnel and a couple of things, a couple of corners that have been cut lately for the team and the just the rail company and the transport company. But not only was it's one thing that they had the accident, but it's another thing of how they managed the accident, and it's really seemed to be that they're glossing over it. We have a Secretary of Transportation who seems more interested in pursuing if Elon Musk is doing human trafficking versus actually talking about this particular information. The mainstream media is completely glossing over this natural, like semi-natural disaster and what's happening, but the governor of Ohio and the governor of Pennsylvania, because this is literally a border town. You're literally like hundreds of yards away from Pennsylvania. I think this city is on the border of the PA line. So the fact that this happened and the prevailing winds head east, this is going to impact Pennsylvania and the surrounding areas of Ohio and Pennsylvania, and possibly the corner of New York as well.
It's basically like a chemical attack on our own soil that is being categorized as a harmless accident.
Yeah, and there's been a couple other incidents. I think there was a chemical spill from a truck that flipped over in Arizona. There's been lots of different accidents, and I think more and more of them are getting more attention because, you might call them accidents, you might call them just normal things that are happening, but people are paying attention to what's going on.
Too many of these things happening to be coincidences. Like, I'm sorry, just like, wow, right? Like, there's just so many things happening where you're going, how many times can we just say, honey, I'm about to change, just give me another chance? Like, at what point do you say, like, wait, maybe this guy is an abusive guy and I should probably not be around him because he's never going to stop beating me? Like, they keep beating us over and over, and we're like, maybe it was a coincidence. It was slippery outside. He slipped and his hand smacked my face. Like, it doesn't work that way, guys. Everything everywhere. Our schools are under attack. Our governments are under attack. Our food's under attack. Our water's under attack. Our housing is under attack. Our money's under attack. It's just one big coincidence, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's clearly a coincidence.
I definitely think the thing to pay attention to, I mean, these things may have just always been happening, but we didn't have the type of media and reach, and then of course social media to distribute this information. And then perhaps it's probably combined with people shifting their focus onto what they're paying attention to, what they're focusing on, what they are seeing as that information that comes through as valuable and important to share. And perhaps that's kind of revealing some of the unpleasant things that were kind of hidden from us in plain sight.
Yeah, but the one wild card here is the movie. I think the fact that the movie was it was made last year, was set in the same town, the same events.
Are you kidding me? This is like, Jeff, I would have been like, bucket 3. Okay, bucket 2 at best. But this was a real movie. Like, and it was really out, and people really watched it and they really rated it, and they called it out as soon as it happened in minutes because the movie was out. This is really something that happened. There was a movie made about the same exact collision and derailment in the same exact place.
Yeah.
That's not supposed to happen. Yeah, that's not supposed to happen at all, but it did. So there's your predictive programming happening right there. And I don't think the movie was even that popular, but whoever saw it, the two or three people that watched it called it out.
And then I come home and you know what Caitlin says? Did you hear about Bluebeam?
Oh, we'll get to Bluebeam.
She's like, yeah, they're blowing stuff out of the sky. There's UFOs. And I'm like, Jeff said this a year ago. And I was like, there's no way this is going to happen. And now it's happening. And I remember this conversation and where we were sitting. And now there's like, man, they're just weather balloons floating across the entire United States. And they don't even know if it's identified or not, but then they shoot them down. Like, wouldn't you want to know if you're going to piss off some aliens? This is a big problem in my world. Like, you do not shoot an unidentified target. This is like basic weapons training. You can't just blow up anything coming your way. This is not, what if they were going to demolish our planet? I don't even know how I'm saying this. The UFOs are, what is happening? Holy moly, guys. I'm sorry, but this is really happening.
Well, we've talked about the first story a bunch, but let's talk about something else that's on our planet that did get blown up, which is another big story that happened, I think, last September, which was the Nord Stream fuel line that was blown up. And now it's finally it was rumored to be that the United States was involved, and now it's official that the U.S., like, pretty much they blew it up. And it's getting swept under the rug because of UFO stories and other stories that are taking in train wrecks that are happening and dominating the news cycle. So this is part of what they did.
It's due to everything happening with Ukraine. We want to support them, so that's why we're blowing shit up. Like, what is going on here? Seriously, does anyone else not see this at all? Are people just like happily at work, going home, doing it all over again, and they have no idea this is happening? Guys, please share, like, subscribe. And this is the point where I will tell you, I am giving free silver out. Thanks to Stock Pulse, you guys are going to be seeing a lot more of me because I am on a quest for silver. So all you got to do to win some silver is, Jeff, tell them what they have to do.
They have to like and subscribe to the channel. They have to tweet about this show and or share on social media and tag us that we know that they've done it, so we can get them into the drawing to win the silver.
So basically, like, share, subscribe.
Details will be in the description.
Tag us.
Yeah, we'll put details in the subscription. If you don't have a Twitter account,
we'll
find another way.
It's going to be happening a lot more, just so you guys know. Again, found some really great partners who are helping me learn the silver game, the gold game, the uranium industry, because I know there's manipulation going on. We'll talk about more of this, but I just can't believe how much it's in our face. It makes no sense.
Dylan, what are your thoughts on the Nord Stream news that finally leaked out at just the right time?
Oh, man. I mean, it's kind of along the lines of what I always say. Like, most things that we see in the media is leaked out strategically, or if they didn't intend for it to be leaked at that point in time, they put a strategic spin on it. These things are happening all over the place, right? If you look at your iPhone, everyone's got an iPhone. Maybe you're watching it on an iPhone, your computer. Like, you have that nice finished product, but you have no idea what goes into making that product. And most people don't even care. They don't give it a second thought about it, as long as they have the working product that makes their life better in whatever way they see fit, right?
Yeah.
And there's probably some things they're saying about, like, your food, like, you don't want to see how the hamburger's made or whatnot. You just want to eat the burger. And that's for most people. And so most people want to live in just that tiny little box, look into that tiny little hole about what reality is, and never consider the bigger picture of what bring them that. And unfortunately, here in America, we are so privileged. We live in a society where we have so many things at our fingertips that make our lives seemingly easier. And because of that, we don't want to look into, behind the scenes. We don't want to look at where it's manufactured, or how it's created, or how it exists, or how we have those things, because that gets dark and dirty real fast. I think this is probably an example of that.
Yeah. And there's so much going on right now that let's get through some of the other noise before the news and the white noise, the news and all the different stories. Then we'll get into the silver. And we'll definitely have in the description how you can win silver from Patrick. But let's get to the next story, which Dylan shared out to us. And I'll probably try and play this off of Twitter, which Charlie Munger is at it again. And let's see if I can get the volume going here. Here we go.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think I hear it.
I can't hear it.
You can't hear
I'd
it?
like to hear
Okay.
it.
Not sure why I can't.
Well, we could just
Uh,
edit this part out too if you want until it plays.
How about you guys just speak to it? I don't know why it won't play the audio. It's probably a Twitter
Yeah.
setup thing and I don't have right way.
I'll speak to this.
So
Obviously,
Dylan,
whenever
what was Charlie talking about?
yeah, so whenever the Muppets from Nebraska, I guess that's what they're called now, start talking about Bitcoin or crypto, Twitter erupts and everyone quotes them and publishes basically the free press. Like this is free media for something like Bitcoin, and you might not convince one of Charlie Munger's supporters of it, but people that are already kind of like against Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, this stuff is good media for crypto and Bitcoin. But basically, he's quoted, the reporter quotes Charlie saying like something along the lines of that he said before, that in order to be successful, you should understand the positions of your opponents so well that you can put up better defenses than them, make arguments to support theirs against your own argument. Right. So basically, it's just a debate 101. Be able to support the opposite side's position just as well as you can support yours. And then so she's like, okay, knowing that, Charlie, and you said that, what would you say are arguments against your position of hating crypto and hating Bitcoin? And he's like, well, there aren't any, because anyone who disagrees with me is stupid. And that's basically the essence of what he said. Just like you got to listen to the clip, but he talks about it, and he made a couple other points that I don't fully disagree with all the points. Like one, he goes on a little spiel about how national currencies are one of the greatest innovations and have lifted people from basically hunter-gatherers to civilized nations. And I don't fully disagree with that, right? Having a consistent monetary system has been significant, right? But as we know, that our monetary system is not flawless, and it has a lot of negatives to go along with it, right? While we here in America get the fruits of that labor because we're close to the money printer, people in the rest of the world oftentimes find themselves not benefiting the same way that we do here. So he talked about that. So definitely go and listen to that part. And then he said, the guy who made the correct decision is the Chinese leader. When he saw crypto come into his nation, we can talk about that. He said, no, we're banning it. And that's not completely true on all fronts, because there still is Bitcoin and crypto that going on in China. But that was kind of the essence of the clip. So definitely worth checking out, listening to. But he's on his way out. That's for sure.
Well, that typically
I don't know if you
happens
guys
when people that are, well, these guys that are over 90 years old and spent so much of their life in the old financial system, of course, they're going to defend it. But Patrick, I know you're a big part of the new financial system with Bitcoin. What are your takes on Charlie and his rantings on Bitcoin?
I mean, I don't really care what a bunch of old people think about what I know to be true. So it doesn't matter to me. He can debate it or not debate it. I can really make a case. I mean, I really do understand it. Maybe he would say, oh, Patrick, there is no argument against why Bitcoin would be bad because anyone who thinks it's bad is just a moron. I would suggest that that's kind of why we have our show, right? We know Bitcoin is great, but also has its potential failures and flaws. We know that there are certain things that could happen in our society and economy that makes us unable to use our Bitcoin. So this is very simple to me. There's a strong case for other assets like gold and like silver, but to think that Bitcoin is not relevant or that there isn't some opportunity there doesn't make sense, but it's really not the sword to fall on either. I mean, you got to have a pragmatic approach here. So for me, this guy, again, whenever you go one way or the other and you just don't take time to consider another option or another point of view, it's really you missing out. And I'm learning that right now. I'm learning all about the precious metals markets, and I'm understanding that on the supply side, we have a real problem considering the demand. And my question is, where's the supply coming from? So for what I'm seeing here, this guy could be totally right, but at the end of the day, he's kind of closed-minded and limiting his options and opportunities. So, it's an okay hill to die on if he wants, but I wouldn't definitely support him.
I mean,
Yeah,
he's going to die on that hill.
He is literally. And it's worth pointing out both Charlie and Warren Buffett, they speak out against Bitcoin, but at the same time, Warren Buffett bought into a company that invested heavily into Bitcoin. So sometimes actions speak louder than words. So I think they're hedging their bets a little bit there. But Patrick, speaking about the economy, I know that one of your topics that you'd like to hit on is the dollar. So let's take a look at the DXY and what you think there before we dive into a little bit more of the crypto news.
So one of the things that we typically see within the DXY and markets in general is, again, this is the strength of the dollar. This is a relative value index of the dollar's value compared to a basket of currencies. When we see the dollar index going up, that means the dollar is valued more compared to everything else. So when the dollar value gets stronger, you would expect it to cost less for the price of goods and commodities. And we're not seeing that. We see stock prices going up. We see Bitcoin skyrocketing. I don't understand why the value is not coming down in correlation to this. Now, what I believe is happening, I believe the Fed knows exactly what's happening. They know that we're hitting a debt ceiling and something has to change. They either have to increase it or things shut down. So there, to me right here, this is like prime opportunity for volatility, because right now the market doesn't know how to price anything. But what we can see is in the bond market is showing that they are reacting to this unfavorably because they know there's more interest increases coming here by the Fed. So at this point, especially, and I'll give a shout out to Nobody Special Finance Jack. You follow him, guys, you'll learn all about how this stuff works and get on his Discord. But when you look at the DXY, you start to understand how the relative value of things fluctuate when the dollar moves. And that's why things like gas can go up. And that's why things like Bitcoin goes up, or things like Litecoin goes up, because the value of the dollar falls. So when you're increasing interest rates, it's almost like consumers have priced it in and they just don't even care. There was more spending in 2023, January 2023, than it was in December of 2022. So they spent more money on their credit cards in January than they did in December. Consumer confidence is high. They're just going out spending money, waiting for, I don't know. They're just going to keep doing it until they figure out what the government is doing, I guess. They're going to keep doing the same thing the government does. Just call their bank and ask for a credit line increase, or wait for a government bailout when they increase the credit line, probably.
Yeah, well, this dovetails into two other stories. And Dylan, go ahead and speak to any of these, but I just wanted to throw up here that consumer debt soaring to record numbers, and also we have inflation that's it's continues to rise. It rose 0.5% in January, which is more than expected, and then we're looking at 6 and it's going. It only slows down in the rate it's going up, but it continues to go up.
Yeah. So a couple of things here. Oh, that's a new view. But a couple of things there on the inflation. So there's the point about the inflation that kind of puts the Fed in an interesting situation, because they've been raising rates, and then to have inflation go up, right, and go up more than expected, or not go down as much as expected, isn't great, because what that says is they're raising rates isn't quite working, or they need to raise rates more to really kind of stamp out inflation, or they have to change strategies and turn back on the printer and back off raising rates. And that creates a whole other set of problems, because that could entrench inflation in our society for a lot longer. And then we got to deal with that. Imagine like a year from now, seeing that inflation again was up 6 or more percent. That's on top of the 6% it's already been up. Right. And so you can see how it compounds, and that can create a whole host of issues.
Bro, the average American doesn't care what percent it is. They really don't. They don't even know. They don't to them, it might as well be 17%. Like, it doesn't matter. It's too much.
They do care about, and this is the problem, they do care about the services and the things they're buying. And when a hamburger goes from $15 to $20, they're like, oh my gosh, this is so overpriced, right? And they keep trying to pay the price that they used to know, or they associated with that good or service, despite the fact that you can't sell that good or service for that price anymore. And so that changes the whole dynamics in the marketplace, changes what type of businesses can be successful, which ones can't be successful, right? And it really shakes things up.
Yeah, but I read an
to a
article
huge
last
degree.
week about like market psychology, and now these days, most people, they don't pay in actual physical dollars. They don't notice the difference in change. So back in the day, that used to do that. But now, Jeff, when we go to Chipotle, what do we pay?
It's way higher.
Exactly. You don't know the number because you stick the card in and you say, I need to eat. I'm on the road. Chipotle is a reasonable priced option to get a burrito and fill myself. Do we know if it's $8, $9, $9.50, $10? We don't really care. We stick it in. We just gotta do what we gotta do. And the American culture is just about like, they don't look, Dylan. Most people aren't like you where they notice the difference in milk actually going up. All they realize is their money's running out. The rest goes on the card.
Yep. Yeah.
And this is the difference between. Go ahead, Dylan.
Oh, and the final thing I want to say on that article and the inflation, that this was a debate we talked about with Twitter. I had an ad tracker on that article, so it's kind of a side, but it's important when we're talking about consumer spending being at high levels and just continually going to realize the role that everyone having a smartphone in their hand or a laptop and going on websites where advertising is the mainstream of revenue for these companies. Literally, they're like, hey, turn off your ad blocker to support our journalism. We need to show ads to keep this running. And that tells you right there. This, I think it was CNN. It was like, that tells you, or CNBC, whatever that article was from, that they're bought and paid for because they are subject to the whims of their advertisers. Because if they don't have the advertisers, they can't run their business. And so the business is only profitable through ads. And so if they're showing more and more ads and you're being more and more exposed to that, of course you're going to start spending more because that's the whole purpose of ads. It's to tell you you need something that you don't really actually need. So that was my little rant there.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. And I think that, just to shed a little bit more light on the rates and how it's affecting all the economy, and to talk about a subject that we haven't talked about too much in the last couple episodes is real estate before we get to crypto. This is the U.S. Fed funds rate. This is the rate that, the Federal Reserve keeps talking about. And you can kind of see a line going from 1980, you could like right from that peak all the way down. You could draw like a line all the way down to like 2010. They've tried to keep lowering for the last 30 to 40 years. Then they tried to raise rates in 2017, 2018, didn't work. They had to drop them to zero. And now we have a trend reversal. And Lynette Zhang was talking about this. When you have a 40-year trend reversal where you break that line from going downwards from 1980 to 2020 and try to move up, you're going to break stuff. That's what happens. And now another example of that, turning to real estate, this is from the Federal Reserve, the economic data from the St. Louis Fed. This is the 10-year Treasury minus the 2-year Treasury. So it shows the difference between the 10-year note and the 2-year note. And what it shows is that it's negative, which means that you get higher interest returns on the almost historical differences, almost a full percentage. You get a better rate for a 2-year note versus a 10-year note. And if you went to the maximum, you could see that it's almost historically there. It's like it hasn't been this different and this upside down or inverted since these recessions in the early 80s. So this is significant, and this is why it's impacted the real estate, because mortgage rates are higher. And if you look at the bond rates, I think I've got that up here too. That's right. So here's all the different bond rates. I know it's kind of small, but as you get smaller and smaller in time, which is at the top, the interest rates are almost go up. So you can see it's 5% and almost stays that way at 6 months and less, but it's lower than 5% if you go to the year and beyond time frame. So the 2-year is 4.6, the 10-year is 3.8. That's why it's negative. 3.8 is less than 4.6. Normally, you would think that the longer you invest the money, the more return you would get. But because of the instability that's perceived in the marketplace, which is probably rightly so, it's inverted. People don't want to risk money, and by leaving it in a bond for 10 years, they'd rather use it in short-term time frames. And that's impacting real estate markets too. It's all kind of tying together. So there's real estate was one of the last bastions for savings and growing your wealth. And that's just not there anymore. So people are looking for safe havens, safe places to run. And it's really hard to find one right now.
You guys want to know something super shocking? Like, have you guys looked at the auto loan industry rates at all?
Not recently, but I've heard that it's ugly.
Take a
Put me on the
guess
spot.
what it would like if I wanted to go and finance my car. Like, let's say I have $50,000 of equity, I own it outright, and it's a new car. You know what they would charge me if I owned a 2022, a brand new car? I just need to refinance it.
I don't know.
Assuming
So
I
somewhere
had an
around 8?
800 credit, like great credit.
8 to 10%, somewhere in that range.
Dylan,
Oh man, I don't know. I was thinking like 5 to 7.
17%.
17%.
Dude,
Oh, man.
that's I was
That's
laughing
crazy.
at that too. I was like, ma'am, who would do that? She goes, people who really need it. I mean, and if you have bad credit, it's over 20%. I'm like, what the hell are you guys doing? I just was like, this is ridiculous.
Well, I understand
Holy
that.
moly.
Yeah.
I
They're
mean,
basically giving you a reason. They're basically trying to tell you, don't get a loan.
yeah.
And then
But
some
that's the
people
problem with
still do, and
offers.
they're like, okay, we tried to tell you 17%. On like a $10,000 car, you're gonna charge me 20% as a child, like a child who's just trying to buy her first car. She wants to get a loan, put down 10%. No, you're still gonna be putting down, enough money. They might give you a loan for a $10,000 car, but it's not a new one. They charge you more. So if you want to get a kid, any basic like Toyota Camry that's 5 years old, you're gonna be paying 17% to 20%. Like, foreclosures are coming, bankruptcies are coming, repos are coming.
Yeah.
Hard.
The auto loan, if you can not buy a car over the next few months, that's just the word on the street, that you just wait as long as possible. Unfortunately, like I was in this situation about a year ago where I wasn't trying to buy a car, and then my vehicle just stopped working and there weren't parts available because of the pandemic. And so a lot of people are put in that situation where they had to buy a vehicle, and all used vehicles, their prices were sky high anyways. And then now you have these loans, and luckily my loan that I got on my vehicle wasn't 17%. It was a lot better than that. But I just can only imagine someone being in that situation where like they need the vehicle to work. And so they have to take that sacrifice, and that's not a good position to be in. And that shows fragility in what's going on. And if something breaks, it's going to break hard.
Yeah, the auto loans. I know that the car industry is really hot. The hot markets now are like the lower the value cars, like the cars that are 20 grand and less. That's probably the last hot market. The higher priced luxury cars are not hot at all. And I think that these auto companies are hurting. They're trying to make it up on the financing, which is, they have people over a barrel with that. And so you're better off if you can get a pre-approved for a loan at like a credit union or something, and then walk in there as a virtual cash buyer if you're going to buy a car.
That was the credit union.
That was the credit union?
That was the credit union. I wasn't dumb enough to call a big bank. I mean, they'd be the best to put it, but I mean, the reality is I get a better deal at my local credit union. And I just asked, what are my mortgage rates? Like, what are personal auto loan rates? Like, what are business rates? And when she told me that the auto loan rate was 17%, I said, I'm sorry, excuse me, what'd you say again? 17. I said, what if you have good credit? She said, that is good credit. I said, what is bad credit? I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be insane.
Yeah, that's
this
the state
is
we're
going
in.
to get really bad, guys. Like, I'm not trying to say, like, you guys better be prepared out there. Be holding your value out there. And you know what? Look at your options. Seriously. I want to reach out and say, look at your options. Some of you are in a financial position right now where, dude, it's just not working. Credit cards, cars, this stuff isn't working. I want to remind you, the credit score. What is the credit score? I mean, that's all that we're talking about here. So if your credit score is already like 500, 600, a bankruptcy, and 6 months later, you'll be up above 600 again. I mean, this isn't financial advice. I'm just saying, look at alternatives, because the name of the game, as Robert Kiyosaki showed us, is cash flow. The idea is to cash flow. If you're in the cash negative, take the sucker punch. It's literally a court hearing. You show up and you say, Judge, I got no money. He'd be like, what do you got? He'd be like, I got no stuff, but you can write off some of the other stuff that you own and still keep it. And then all of a sudden you walk out, and then no one calls you. Basically, I think is how it works. They can't call you again. So it just stops. And then you rebuild your credit. If you've done this in a way that just doesn't make sense, go and try to figure a solution out of it. I'm not saying that you have to stay stuck, but you do have to make changes if you're in a bad position. Again, I don't ever look at you and say, here's the information, don't do anything about it. The idea is you guys have a call to action. You guys, we are out there looking for the hidden treasures. We want to find out like what the best is out there for Bitcoin, the best out there for silver, what gold deals are out there. But one of the things that we always forget when it comes to investing and prepping is we've got to get rid of the things that are burdening us. If you've got a lot of stuff at home, sell it. If you've got stuff you don't need, get rid of it. Clean up your life, lighten your load. If you're in a financial situation that's overwhelming, figure out different options that you have for it, including getting more work done, selling some of your stuff, paying down your debts. And while you're doing that, start preparing for what we know is coming. But don't take on this debt of a credit card for $6,000 or $5,000, like thousands of dollars a month when your budget doesn't allow it. And then you don't have time or money to spend on goods that you need to keep at home. You need water at home. You need food at home. It's pretty simple. That should be your priority. Not financial advice, just a guy who's a dad trying to say, like, think about it. You're paying the banks or you're feeding your kids. It's a no-brainer. Get your shit together.
Taking action is the challenge here. We give you a lot of information and there's lots of different paths, but a car loan looks really adverse right now, not the best solution. So maybe if you scrounge together a couple grand, maybe you can find an interim solution on like Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or something. Just buy an old used car that gets you from A to B that buys you 6 months. And as Dylan pointed out, the situation may improve in 6 months. So you bought yourself time with that money. Maybe you can resell it in 6 months too. Who knows? But in the meantime, you can stack whatever other assets in your income and work harder, sell stuff, and be in a better position 6 months from now to upgrade your vehicle solution. So just things to think about. And it's like, maybe you just bite the bullet with a cheap knock around car for a couple months and then decide what you're going to do from there. But you have a plan, you have a short-term plan, and you have a medium, long-term plan, and just work both those angles. So a few more stories to touch on before I think we're going to start delving into crypto space now. So our first crypto story, which was big last week, was Kraken was kind of pushed in the direction of shuttering their staking options because of the SEC. So it seemed that the SEC was picked the littlest fish in the U.S. market as far as a centralized exchange and kind of pushed them out of the staking operations, which made people very concerned about what's going to happen for staking in the United States and what's going to happen with the SEC's rulings and how they keep kind of clamping down on crypto. Patrick, what's your thoughts here?
I mean, there's a reason why I preach Bitcoin. Bitcoin is pretty simple. It's immune to these regulatory issues. This is not a surprise to me. As soon as I saw this information, it was a joke how I saw Binance at CZ at Binance, I mean, just like saying, yeah, we're not like them. And they it's almost like they deserved it. But I was frustrated with the space going like, you guys don't see the bigger picture here. Okay. BlackRock and Circle are in bed together. USDC is going to stay strong. They're going to try to knock out Binance USD. They're going to try to knock out Tether. They won't even have to try to knock out Tether. They just kind of have to like blow it, Tether. That's all you have to do with Tether because it's already on shaky ground. These guys are trying to regulate the crypto industry, and the money is going to continue to ebb and flow and be volatile. You're going to see Bitcoin go up $2,000, down $1,000. I mean, when you're talking 10% swings in a day and a half, you're going to see Bitcoin below 23,000. Just again here, it was just above 25. I mean, these are significant numbers to be moving here in Bitcoin, and it's all SEC FUD. That's all it is. People were afraid of Kraken. They are trying to regulate. The simple game here is to ignore the FUD, buy your Bitcoin. And I don't really care what other projects are telling you, because in my opinion, the SEC will go after anything they can. They can't go after Bitcoin. It is decentralized. That's the beauty that Satoshi Nakamoto gave us as a gift. And he said, here you go, Patrick and Dylan and Jeff, you guys get to use whatever you want. And I don't care how real it is, as long as we agree that it's valuable to each one of us, then that's all good for us. I don't care how fake it is, as long as other people value it. But there is a day when all of these altcoins, we have called it for a while, are not going to exist. There's going to be a huge dilution coming. And I don't know what that catalyst is, but we've been expecting it for many months. So the SEC knows nothing about Bitcoins, can say nothing about Bitcoin. But yes, when it comes to altcoins, what did we think was going to happen, guys? You're creating and raising money and capital. They're going to try to get a piece of it. You can't just be like, no, instead of a business, we launched a crypto project. And what's the goal of the crypto project? Well, it's a decentralized way of doing something that we're doing already, but we're just trying to bypass your stock and all the issues we have to deal with the SEC. So it's a token offering. Yeah, they didn't catch that. They don't have smart people that are looking at this at all. Like, it's a joke if we think we're immune to it. That's what I think.
What's your take on this?
Oh, so my thing is, and I say this, and I like to liken Bitcoin to Doomsday. If you know the supervillain. I don't think Bitcoin's necessarily a supervillain, but Doomsday, the character from DC Comics, basically got its origin by some mad scientist on Krypton, took this whatever creature, this innocent creature, and tossed it out to the beasts of Krypton. And every time it got killed, he'd bring it back, and it couldn't be killed by the same thing anymore. It would adapt. And ultimately, like, Doomsday went through, getting put out there, getting killed, coming back to life, getting put out there, getting killed, coming back to life so many times. Obviously, that warped him to this evil being. And ultimately, that led to a confrontation between Doomsday and Superman, where Doomsday actually was responsible for killing Superman. I think if you follow Doomsday's character arc later on down the road, he develops intelligence and no longer is necessarily the supervillain that he was in that part of his origin story. But whenever I think of something like Bitcoin, I think of it like that, or crypto. It's like, you need to I want everything to be thrown at this thing so that it can, if it survives, that it can come back and go toe to toe with the most powerful forces around and not lose. Right. And so that's kind of what I look at when I see this, is like, yeah, do I want the SEC to come in and heavy hand and regulate things? No. But they're going to do it sooner or later, and I'd much rather them do it and Bitcoin not die, or whatever crypto projects don't die, for them to come back stronger. Because I don't want to build a global monetary base layer on something that was just like kind of handed a participation trophy and got the role. I want it to be something that we know is, basically invulnerable, right? Invincible, that can't be destroyed, can't be disrupted. Especially if you're talking about storing trillions of dollars of wealth on that network. You don't want that to just evaporate. We've seen what happens on bad crypto projects like Luna. I think the SEC just filed a lawsuit against the Terraform Labs. I think that's associated with Terra Luna. We see what happens when you have a bad project that attracts a lot of money and then completely collapses. All that money disappears in less than a day. Right? We don't want that to happen. That would destroy so many people and create so much chaos. So I want these assets to be fortified, and unfortunately, it's going to take a tax on them, and they got to survive.
Yeah, and I think that what you're seeing is that you're seeing two economic worlds, or two financial systems, battling with one another. You have the legacy led by the SEC and the CFTC, the U.S. dollar-based system, fighting against the new one, which is based on Bitcoin and altcoins, and they're trying to get their piece. They're trying to suppress them as long as they can until other big money can come in and get involved. But at the same time, they want to regulate it. But 90% of the world doesn't care. They don't care. XRP investors are all over the planet, not just the United States. The fallacy that a lot of people in the U.S. is thinking that everything that happens in the U.S. is basically like everything else in the rest of the world. And it's simply not true, especially with a decentralized crypto plan. So we got a couple more crypto stories to touch on real quick. I did share the store. Let's see. I shared, while Dylan was talking, the 99 Bitcoins, they track the number of Bitcoin deaths. People have declared Bitcoin dead over and over and over again. It's up to 471 times.
What's the last one?
Continued, the last one.
The most frequent one. Can you scroll down?
The most recent death. Yeah, go down. Scroll down a little bit more.
January. Greatest Ponzi of all time.
There it is.
So So yeah, there's tons of articles linked through here, and this is probably not even that it's not conclusive or inclusive of everything, because there's probably been tweets and videos and such that have all been out there about Bitcoin. But there's other Bitcoin noise. I don't even know if we're gonna have time, Patrick, talked about mining, but let's talk about Andrew Tate for a moment and how much Bitcoin he's had seized by authorities. Again, government overreach. Are they grabbing this? Are they influencing too much? Talk about this story if you would.
Yeah. So, you want Patrick or me? I put this story on here.
Then you go, Dylan.
Yeah, we both. So, obviously, Andrew Tate's a controversial figure who claims to be now a billionaire or maybe trillionaire. Who knows? But he's dealing with some unfortunate situations. And I don't know if he's innocent or not. But we want to talk about it. In the article, it talks about his Bitcoin and it being seized because it was on a cold storage wallet. And we talked about, we mentioned this a lot. If Bitcoin's on cold storage, the government it can't be seized, or can it? Or how can someone, hack the Bitcoin blockchain? How can someone get your Bitcoin? And I see this as a misinformation story, for one. I also see it as Andrew should probably have more Bitcoin. If you see that he has 5 Bitcoin, and his brother Tristan has 16 Bitcoin. So he should probably have more Bitcoin than that with the amount of money he has. But also, it says that it basically shows you that you can have your seed phrase stored, but if the government comes at you with full force, it's hard to conceal that. It's hard to not have to give that up. And that is a problem, because, if it can be taken from you, if it can be seized from you, if it's not stored properly in a way that if you get in trouble, or if whoever powers that be decide you're guilty of something and they can easily get it, well, then it's their Bitcoin. So you always got to think about that, how you're storing your seed phrase. And there was an article that was paired with it about Wyoming releasing or passing a law passing a bill that said that you cannot be forced to give the private key to the government. So that kind of paired well with that story. There are places that are trying to put protections for individuals, specifically around Bitcoin and crypto, and that private key, so that the government can't force you to give that up. Like, even if you did something bad, they can't be like, you have to tell us your private key or else, right? You can keep that information safe and secure. So I think that's cool to see that out of Wyoming. But clearly there's still risk out there.
Patrick, definitely want to hear your take. And also, how would you advise someone, not financial advice, of course, but from a security standpoint, if someone stole your cold storage wallet, how would you prevent them from actually getting your crypto?
Dude, there's no way for them to steal my cold storage wallet. That's what I'm trying to get you guys to understand. It's physically not possible. That's all I can tell you. That's the solution you need to create, where that's your honest answer. It's like, dude, I could not give it to you. There's one way for you to get it, and it is to torture me. And I'm not going to do it.
Well, I will say I will contribute a little bit to the discussion here for those who are relatively new to crypto. If you had a cold storage wallet and they confiscated it, you could still have your seed words. You could still have your private keys. You could restore that to a different wallet.
What did they confiscate? Let's ask. What is a wallet? What did they really confiscate?
It's just a seed signing device.
They took your 12 words?
No, they took the device that allowed you to view the blockchain.
Oh, well, why did you own one of those? That's not how you store your Bitcoin if you want to hide it. That's the wrong strategy. If that's how you're storing Bitcoins on a device, then absolutely you are asking for trouble. Andrew Tate lost because the device can be hacked. You get me a Tracer, get me a Ledger. Get me a Ballet wallet, get me anything I can have physical possession of, and I can hack it. Get me a phone that has a wallet on it, I can hack it. I can get the Bitcoin off of it. I promise, I'm not BSing you guys. This is real life. Go look up Joe. He cracked the whole Tracer with me. He's up here just north of me in Portland. So shout out to Joe for teaching me a lot. But the reality of it is none of it is safe. The only safe secret is the secret that nobody knows. It's just that simple. Let me give you an example. Wink, wink. If you wanted to do something like this, let me say that you have favorite fruits, and you're going to put your 12 favorite fruits in alphabetical order. They just have to be on the list of words on the BIP 39 word list. It's not that hard. It's just a little book. And this little book has a list of all of the words. And so what you do is you pick 12 random words from this whole list, and you have just created your own wallet. You load that wallet up on Trust Wallet, and then you delete the Trust Wallet. And then you throw the phone into a fire, and the wallet exists where? In your mind. Like Doctor Strange has to break into it, kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
That's
the
how you
BIP
get
39.
Bitcoin. That's how I would store my Bitcoin if I were trying to do that. And I don't do that. I store my Bitcoin at Jeff's house.
So there are definitely
Yeah.
good ways to store your Bitcoin and your crypto safely and securely, and we can certainly advise people on that. That's beyond the scope of this show today, but that's something that we do with economic preppers, and Patrick and I do, and so does Dylan. We teach you how to do those sorts of things, and we do have the economic preppers wallet from Ballet, which is one of those solutions. But there's lots of ways to handle it. But let's go to the I think we had one more story from crypto. Let's skip over the mining in the interest of time here. I think we have one story from Nigeria. This is yours, Patrick. So let me share this one out.
Oh, yeah. This is a great story. So today, what is the price of Bitcoin? $24,598 right now as we're recording at 4:18 p.m. Pacific time. That's the only time I know, by the way. So with that said, in Nigeria, it would sell for a premium. And the premiums over there were like up to almost $38,000 just a few days ago. 60% premiums in some areas because they released a CBDC and it's limiting how much cash they can take out every month. So they're limited in their ability to get cash. They want Bitcoin as fast as possible, and it is selling for a premium. Who wants to go to Nigeria? The problem is what they'd give you in return is garbage, unless they have gold, but I'm not going to do that. The reality, though, is for them, they're buying Bitcoin at a 60% premium. If Bitcoin is $100,000 here, they're buying Bitcoin for $160,000 there. I mean, this is a really big difference in Nigeria. Why? Why do they value crypto so much? You know, an argument was made it's because they value the dollar. I laughed. I know people in Nigeria. I knew that was not true. They don't like the dollar either. They like gold. They used to like the dollar. Now they know people aren't stupid. The problem with Nigeria is they don't have enough people who have Bitcoin. So again, it's what I was telling people. The best way to get Bitcoin, there's only two ways to get Bitcoin, guys. You can mine it yourself, which I would highly recommend you don't try, because the big boys are in the game now. 98% of the Bitcoin is gone. There's not a whole left mining to do, right? There's just a few big boys holding down the fort because they've invested in it for so long that they're going to need to hold the hash rate up. The second way you buy Bitcoin is you convince someone to give you something else that's garbage for it. So I don't know how people convince people to get rid of their Bitcoin for dollars. And if you are stupid enough to trade someone silver for crypto or gold for crypto, I don't know why you would do that, right? Those are like a one-way transaction. Your gold and silver is a one-way in bucket. Nothing goes out, just goes in. But with crypto, it's a different game. I don't know what they're doing.
Well, I can see that this goes back to something similar that we see with precious metals with gold and silver. It's a premium. Like there's a premium on the Bitcoin because it's so desirable. There's not enough supply for all the demand, and most of the demand is in that central bank digital currency and currencies that people don't want. That's why it costs so much. There's not that much Bitcoin available for sale in this area on the exchanges that are available to Nigeria. So that's really what's going on there.
I keep telling people you are making a very bad assumption that you're going to have access to Bitcoin later. I mean, that's a terrible assumption, right? You can always make Bitcoin for sure. It's easy to do, but it's not profitable to do. But if you needed it, you can easily make Bitcoin. You may just have to run up your credit card bill a whole hell of a lot before you have some Bitcoin, but you can easily make Bitcoin with money. But precious metals, you can't just make that, right? I mean, and it's really, the supply is not known. We don't know what the true supply is, and we don't know what the true demand is yet. But what we see in Nigeria happening is the demand for Bitcoin is so much higher than the supply, which is why you're seeing it. It's becoming a scarce resource there.
I think there's also one thing to consider why someone in Nigeria might prefer Bitcoin over something like gold or silver. I mean, obviously, one is access. You can get like if you can get the internet, you can get Bitcoin. If you get the internet, you can't necessarily get gold or silver in all locations. Even if you can go to a website with gold and silver, it's got to get to you physically. And that's the one bad thing about gold and silver is you have to keep it physically, right? And or you have to trust, if you don't have it physically, you have to trust the person who is holding it physically. And if you live in a country with a government that may not follow all the rules and may not respect property rights, anything that you hold physically can and likely will be taken from you at some point in time. I mean, if you look at through history, the gold's always been seized. If you go to Africa, there's a book I read called The Last Ivory Hunter, and during the time, I think it was Mozambique, was one of like the wealthiest countries, beautiful country, and then regime change, and they confiscated everything. They just murdered people, took all their wealth, took all their resources. And at the time of when I read the book, it was like one of the worst places in Africa. And if you have a store of gold or silver, unless you can carry that on you or escape the people coming after you, it's gone. Versus something like Bitcoin, like you said, if you can remember the 12 words, you have it. And you can send that anywhere to anyone in the world with just an internet connection. So there are some perks to that. But I do agree with your points on gold and silver. Like, it's hard to make. You still got to get it from someone versus Bitcoin. You can connect to the internet and do it. But just different tools for different situations. At least that's my perspective.
That's correct.
Yeah. Well, guys, we're almost out of time. Was there anything else we wanted to talk about?
So we'll have to save that for next week. I mean, there's a lot.
Patrick, did you catch that? Is there anything? Did you catch that big game on Sunday?
Yeah, your team lost, dude. That was, I mean, I was having fun texting you, especially when the game was close. But then right at the end, I mean, yeah, I was just happy to have the game to think about because I really wanted to ignore halftime. Did you know she did one of those thingy things? Don't get that on video. I didn't do that. I just, you know what I mean, though. She did the thing. My wife showed me. I'm not gonna do it again. I just couldn't believe that it was like happening right in our face again. Like, at what point? And you even called it. You're like, yeah, dude, they always descend from up above. And I'm like, oh, and then here she comes down. And I was watching the halftime show going, hey, Jeff, did you're like, I gotta go. You didn't even want to talk to me. It was so rude.
Yeah. Well, there was the halftime show, and there was also a few other things that were like, you see they brought out Damar Hamlin again, and he had a particular jacket on that was kind of blasphemous that they talked about. And he apparently got a tattoo in the last couple of days of an astronaut surrounded by UFOs. And it happens to be on his right hand.
Can't we forget about the UFOs thing? I mean, I feel like we're pissing some aliens off here. This is literally going to be biblical.
Or we're just following orders.
Well, to bring this show full circle, Project Bluebeam is the red pill that I'm going to be handing out. I know it's blue, but this is the red pill I'm handing out. Now, Project Bluebeam, and I'll read this. It's a little small here, but it says, according to conspiracy theorists, and we're running out of them, so we got to keep
adding more conspiracies.
Project Bluebeam is a secret project floated by NASA and the UN with a purpose to create an artificial second coming in order to control people and restore the New World Order. So that's one definition of it. There are other videos out there. There's lots of, this has been coming up a lot because there's been talk about all these different UFOs. And they're mentioned of Project Bluebeam. It's so many different stories that I was able to find. There was also a tweet that was highlighted by another YouTuber that talked about from Entheos and mentioned something that happened in 2014, a project called Sky Dreadnought. And he was talking about Ukraine and rewinding, replaying retrofit projectors. So to give an idea of what this is all about, and I'll show a video in a moment, but Project Bluebeam is basically the idea of them using UFOs or the story of UFOs to distract people from the real news or to control people, to put them in fear again, to control them again, and that the government say, hey, we're here to help. So it's the Hegelian dialect again. You create a problem, create the solution, and then what is it? Dylan, you might be remember this. Is it problem, correction, solution? Is that the right answer? I think that's the way it goes. But anyway, they're creating the solution for a problem that they invented. So they're creating this UFO story. They're shooting things out of the sky. They're doing it to control the people, put the people in fear as well, and say, hey, the government's here to save the day. But this project, I was able to find more about Sky Dreadnought, which is actually a military project. And I'm going to show this video real quick. It's like a 2-minute video. Let me see if I don't even think there's any audio to it, but this is what Sky Dreadnought is. So it's a military asset that was deployed in the Ukraine in 2014, and it's like this giant plasma weapon that's launched, and I think that was displayed over there. It was shown in the middle of the day, and it was in the year 2014, and it's larger than 3 aircraft carriers. There's a picture of it in the sky. It's long, cylindrical shaped, and the propulsion system is not normal. They don't know, like they didn't disclose what it was, but it's this giant thing that they were testing in the Ukraine. Again, harkening back to UFOs. I don't need to show the whole video, but that's basically the concept there. It's a large thing. So Project Bluebeam, I'm definitely convinced that we're in the middle of it right now with all the UFO talk. It's there because there's so many other stories coming about laptops and investments and explosions and trains and all these different things that are happening all over the planet. But hey, we don't want to talk about those. Let's talk about UFOs instead. So that's what Project Bluebeam is. You may hear about it more often than not going forward here. But as you hear about more and more things that are shot out of the sky that are unexplained, think of it like, why are they telling us this stuff now? Kind of like what they're like launching the FUD about Bitcoin now. So that's the red pill.
I'm gonna say, I'd keep it simple, right? Be a Texan. That's right. Be a Texan, right? So this is what I mean. Be a good American, own a gun, and love Jesus. And when anything comes over, you just shoot it. That's just it. Like, I don't understand. You don't allow things to come in to your airspace. But you have to observe what it is first. If it's a balloon, you shoot it. If it's a legit flying saucer, guys, don't move. Just do nothing. Like, don't do anything. Don't be like the government and be like, we don't know what it was. We shot it down. Okay. If it's a drone, you're private property. Fine. Shoot it down. If it's a spaceship, just don't do anything. Just stand there. Don't take out your phone. Just stand there and do nothing. That would be my best guess.
Get into cover. But let's be fair. Like, I want aliens. I want to believe so in aliens, and I wish it'd be pretty amazing if we discovered intelligent extraterrestrial life and that they want to
talking about this.
But no, I'm just
talking
saying
about aliens. Oh my god!
I'm just saying, like
speaking,
they're definitely in 3. It's definitely in 3 for aliens. Like I said, I want to believe. But
okay,
especially when you talk about aliens physically visiting the Earth, right? Unless they have some sort of like teleportation, space bending technology, right? It's extremely costly to move things physically. It takes a lot of energy. I see it'd be much more likely that they beam light signals with information that gets intercepted by our computers and then has a virus in there that goes and like gets a 3D printer that then starts printing alien DNA that gets inserted into whatever, right? That's so much more plausible than them actually physically coming here.
You should write books. You should literally
write books on this stuff. I'm not saying that's happened, but like there's like no chance these are aliens like floating balloons around. Like, no. So like the Project Bluebeam seems much more plausible when you think when you really start thinking about, are they actually aliens? I wish they were, but they're probably not.
So I would put it more into bucket 2 than in bucket 3, because I think it's egotistical of humans to think that we're alone in the universe. I think that's just the numbers don't. If you calculate the possibilities, that we're the only ones, that seems impractical. Now, as far as them visiting here, I agree with known technology that we are apprised of, and we know that, yeah, it seems impractical. But what if they have a technology that we do not know about that makes it easy for them to jump on over here and visit? That would change the game for sure. So that's something to think about. But I think that between those two, the odds of the aliens have been here at some point on this planet, I think it's more high. It's higher than most people think.
Okay, Jeff, your definition of aliens is where we can't have a discussion. So, first of all, aliens, we have to define that. And that show is definitely for another day. I am going to stop at say this is bucket 3. Dylan says it's bucket 3, which to us is the least reliable bucket and the one that you don't have to pay as much attention to until we move it to bucket 2 when we're like, dude, there's aliens. If it's bucket 1, and I'm telling you, bucket 1, alien. I mean, I'm not going to be around for bucket 1 aliens. Ain't no way in hell I'm going to be around for bucket 1 aliens. Do you know what I mean, guys? So bucket 2 is why we're preparing.
Going to save that clip. And when that happens, I'm like, what did you say that you were going to be around for this or not?
Bro, I'm gone. I am still gone. I'm telling you, aliens coming down. Man, I'm gone. I know it. I know what I believe. I'm gone. Bye-bye.
Okay.
You will not see me.
Speaking of being gone, it's time to wrap up for this week. Patrick, any parting words for our audience?
No, like, share, subscribe. Remember, follow me on Twitter. Share this on Twitter. Get me in. I'm at the Divvy Daddy for now. And then don't forget, silver giveaway. It's pretty simple. All you got to do is like, share, subscribe, and mention us on Twitter.
Yeah, mention us before the next episode, and we'll do a drawing. We'll do the drawing, and we'll do an announcement on the next episode of who the winner is. Dylan, any last words?
Just think critically and always do your own research. Don't just take the headlines for reality, like we've saw multiple times. When you dig in, do the research, and look at more detail, you see the bigger picture.
Absolutely, absolutely, and be prepared so you're not scared, even of aliens. And with all that said, that's all for today. We'll see you next time. Take care. All right.